Hi everyone, I'm Julianne Now, and you're listening to the Lady Now Show, where I feature conscious conversations about health, life, love, cannabis, yoga, spirituality, women's empowerment, and so much more. I believe a holistic life starts from the inside and is reflected like a movie projector out into your outside world. This is also a space where it's like having your best friend answer all your questions while sharing her best insights all in one. I'm so happy to have you here. And if you want more free content, mentoring options, or just to reach out and say hi, head to my website at ladynow.com.
You have a very beautiful, angelic, calming voice.
Thank you.
You do. I'm like, I really just want to listen to what you have to say.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And I'm like, what does she know? Because I want to know what she knows.
Amazing. Wow. What a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah. I love basing things on like feelings, and intuition. And like, yeah, I just love your voice.
Thanks. I guess I've been practicing doing guided meditations and working with clients. And this seems to be the best register for the heart to kind of like calm down, but the mind to stay active. Also, I meditated before I got on this call to make sure that I would be in the right space.
I really think that right there is the answer to like get into the right space before you, I don't want to say do everything, but do like certain things or some things. I did a podcast earlier today with another woman. She's in Los Angeles, and she teaches about consciousness and cannabis and some similar things to like what I'm doing here in Canada. And one of the things she said was, I just meditated before you call, so I can't wait to see what comes out. And I was like, oh, I love that, because I also take moments before I get on a call, whether it's a phone call or a podcast or anything, to just like get into that right space. It's like, well, I just trust that what I'm saying is, what needs to be said. And yeah, I haven't heard really many other people say that or do that. So maybe this is the universe telling us, like, you need to teach more people to do this before they talk to other people.
Yeah, conscious conversation.
Yes.
And I find that mindfulness allows for an extra layer of compassionate communication.
Yes.
So in our presence, we're not just babbling, and we won't accidentally hurt people's feelings,
Yes.
That happens.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a business called Spirited Roots. That's how it's said, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. So what is your philosophy and vision with Spirited Roots? And maybe just, for anyone who hasn't met you or doesn't know your business, just kind of a background on how did Spirited Roots come to be? How did you choose the name? What kind of feelings were brought up and assurances, I guess, were put together to really create your vision and the philosophy that you hold?
So about 10 years ago, I was sitting in my roommate's bedroom. She was working on her thesis, and I was just sitting on the floor trying to think of something I wanted to do, because I didn't really I loved my job at the time, but I didn't really like it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I was saying that to someone earlier. I was like, I was a preschool teacher, and I was like, I just don't think I want to do this forever. Like, I did actually love what I was doing, but I just knew, like, this isn't it.
Yeah. And I sat on the computer and I made my first Facebook group, and I called it Spirited Roots, because my other job in life is I'm an arborist. So I work with trees, pruning trees, removing trees. And so I've always had a very close relationship with trees. And I wanted to convey the essence of what a tree does, which is, reaches to the sky and remains really grounded and rooted on the planet at the same time. And so Spirited Roots just became the name. And I've thought about changing it, to be honest, a few times, but I can never actually do it because it's what I do. It is Spirited Roots. It's becoming elevated and remaining grounded and realistic and connected to the real world. So my philosophy essentially is that I'm driven to inspire individuals to save themselves through right relationship with their internal nature.
Oh, that just made me teary. I'm like, can you write that down, that sentence, and send it to me?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. I will come back to this moment.
Okay.
And explain more about like what that sentence holds extra meaning for me.
Okay.
We'll allow you to continue with your name, but wow, what an impact you have on the earth and will continue to have with that intention.
Oh, you just gave me goosebumps. Yeah, so I guess my vision, not I guess, I know my vision is to cultivate community space that nurtures and supports the wholeness of being in a way that does not exclude the human and primarily the emotional nature from our daily lives. So I feel like we have been cultured and taught to live very separate from our emotional body.
Mm-hmm.
And the emotional body translates into the subconscious mind. And when we put up barriers to feeling anger, grief, rage, sadness, isolation, joy, love, excitement, when we put up barriers to those things in our mind, we block them in our body. And then we ended up with a massive disconnect between what we know is true for us and what we believe mentally. And we hold ourselves back, and it's an accident.
Wow. I'm just like shaking my head. Like your words are like so incredible. Like the world needs to hear all of this. I totally agree with that. It's like this emotional intelligence just does not exist, nor do people want to talk about it or create avenues into how to talk about it.
Right. Because we are so disconnected from the body.
Mm-hmm. What are some examples from your own life that you have been disconnected from your body and have come back to it? And what does that look like and feel like? Just like is to paint a picture for someone who maybe is going through that but doesn't realize, or has gone through that and is looking for some confirmation to know like, oh yeah, that is what that was.
Great question. So my best example is my old job. Being an arborist, it's an incredibly rigorous job. Like it's very, very physical. So you're working, well, because I don't know how to do anything at 70%, I was always working at 110. And so putting my body through that much physical labor, and then I'd get home. So it'd be 8-hour days, climbing trees, dragging branches, lifting branches into the chipper, loud noise, chainsaws. Like it was a really aggressive job. And I'd get home and I would then go to work out. I'd either go to CrossFit or I'd go for a big jog. And so what I was doing was I was trying to feel my body, and exerting my muscles to that degree allowed me to feel something. So I could feel successful at the end of the day because my body hurt. I'd feel good because the next day my muscles were sore. And it is good. Physical activity is absolutely essential, but I was taking it to the extreme. And using my body to the degree that I was actually reinforcing a level of denial. I'd be so tired that I wouldn't feel my grief. I'd be so tired that I wouldn't feel the emotional impact of some of the language used on the work trucks, of course, because it's a primarily male-dominated industry. So I wouldn't feel the impact of some of the language, and it enabled me to just kind of shut down all of the doors on the inside of my body so that I could survive. So I was very much living in survival mode all of the time. And I finally got to this place where I was like, you know what? Like, what am I doing? I can't maintain a relationship. I end up quitting my jobs after 2 years. You know, I don't always know what I want to eat. And so I started to question why I felt so disconnected from my body when all I was doing was using my body. And then I started to meditate, and I started to be of service for other people. And then curiosity kind of brought me inward because I was very unsatisfied.
Wow. And then once you became more curious, where did that lead you?
So being more curious, so this will kind of lead into how I found breathwork.
Yeah.
But I was doing Reiki and intuitive healings on the weekends and on evenings, also after going to my job Monday to Friday.
Yeah. I'm like, preach, sister, because I know what that is like.
Oh my
gosh. In the transition period, it's like you look back and you're like, what was I doing and how was I doing that?
How was I doing it?
How was I doing that? Like
Yeah.
working 2-3 jobs, but doing yoga training, plus wanting to teach yoga, plus wanting to do Reiki, because like those are the things I really loved. But then had this other job and these other commitments that like I had to do to pay the bills. And now I'm like, yeah, like we look back and it's like, how did we do that?
Oh, it's mind-boggling.
Totally.
And then I think that spirit is behind that.
You
know, we can manage. It's like, I use this analogy a lot when I was working trees and doing spirited roots. It's like I had one foot on the dock and one foot on the boat. And the foot on the boat was my spiritual life, was my business life. And the boat kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more beautiful and gentler and more tender and more inclusive of who I was as a person. And it started to kind of separate from the dock. But I still had one foot on there. And so as my two lives became more differentiated from each other, it became impossible to sustain one foot in both worlds. And then I had to make a choice. But for a long time, for let's say like 9 years, I did both worlds.
That's a long time for your soul.
Yeah.
For me, like I've never done a breathwork class in the same capacity as that you teach or that you do. I know people that do like go to California and all over for breathwork training and experiences. And I almost went to one, and then the timing of it, I ended up having to cancel. So there's been times like I've almost gotten to do breath work in that way, but haven't actually gotten to go. So what is breath work, and how is that different than meditating or just breathing before a yoga class? What does that mean?
So this particular breath work that I teach is a 3-part pranayama breath. So it's a breath into the belly, the chest, and out the mouth, and it's all done through the mouth. So, I mean, when we prepare for yoga, and I'm not a yoga teacher, but my understanding is that we breathe in through the nose, and the nose breath stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, whereas breath in through the mouth stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. So breath work is a somatic healing experience that stimulates the fight, flight, freeze, or faint response in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that on purpose so that you can re-experience your edge, your boundary, and you can push through it.
That sounds incredible. I'm thinking like for people with, PTSD, like my partner is a veteran and he has a company and business that helps veterans with PTSD. And I'm just thinking like, that's what they need. Like they need that help in the parasympathetic system. And that would be incredible for them.
It is. It's amazing for trauma and
Mm-hmm.
PTSD. And to be honest, that is one of the reasons why I got into it. So I like to call it, so we stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, and then at the end, we just rest, Shavasana, for about 15 minutes. And I like to call that the parasympathetic playground. Because in that rest state, you feel, I just get goosebumps every time I talk about how it feels at the end, because you feel oxygen riding every single blood cell in your body. And you can feel what is unequivocally you. There's no second guessing who you are at the end of this experience.
And how long does a session usually last for? Is it like 30 minutes, an hour? How long is a session?
So, yeah. The healing, like if you want to do a breathwork healing, it's a 25-minute set.
Okay.
So we do the breath for 25 minutes. So, typically I'll do a grounding exercise first, then we breathe for 25 minutes, and then we rest for 15. But like when I'm doing it in my living room in the afternoon, I just lay down and do 25 minutes. That with 25 minutes, you drop into your emotional body and you heal, you process, and you move trauma out of the body without having to cognitively relive the experience, which is why it works so well for trauma and PTSD.
And what do people need for a session like this? Like just a yoga mat or somewhere comfortable to lay or sit?
So we do it laying down with, ideally with nothing under your head. Now, if you have severe body pains or neck issues or whatever, a small pillow under the neck is okay. But we want to keep the throat chakra as open as possible. So you can be laying down on a yoga mat. You can be on a couch in your bed. You want to be comfortable laying down. You can have bolsters under your knees, and usually a blanket because your temperature changes during the experience. And if you wanted to have like an eye shade, you could do that too. So you don't need much.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever record sessions and then send them to people? Because I'm like, I would love a 25-minute session and of course pay you for it, but also be able to like introduce it to my partner and to the group in a way that it's like, today we're going to do this, like in a setting that they're already comfortable with, in a setting that they're comfortable, like with me being there.
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you ever do anything like that, so that people could like get a recorded session or something from you.
Yes. So I would absolutely love to do a session with you and your partner. We can do that virtually, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do record them. So I can email you a recording of a breathwork healing. We could even set up a time with your class, your people, where we're all in the room. I'm on the computer, you plug me into a speaker, and we do a class.
Oh, that'd be so great. Because
Yeah.
I combined at our grand opening, I did 30 minutes of yin yoga / yoga nidra.
Oh, amazing.
So they were already in like that space. And then I had a friend come in and she did like the huge real crystals singing bowls that correspond with each chakra for 30 minutes.
Awesome.
And it was just this like, everyone's like, whoa, like I'm pretty sure I went to like different conscious states like 3 or 4 different times. Like, so I think it'd just be really cool to like combine to things like that, or a session where they're already coming for yoga, to also be like, let's get into this chill state. Now let's do the breath work kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That is something I will think about and get back to you with.
Awesome.
And everyone listening to this, I love that you can do it virtually. So people can contact you and book with you. It's such a great tool that you don't have to be in person.
Yeah, exactly.
How did you know as a student that you wanted to be a teacher?
Because I had been doing my healing work for a number of years, I'd been wanting to have a group offering. And I couldn't figure out how to take my intuitive healing, because my intuitive healing is a very personal experience.
Yes.
How to get it into a group format. And I came across a woman named Erin Telford. And I started to study with her. And then I got certified, and I immediately brought breathwork to my yoga community. And I said, I have to try this. We have to try this. And they were like, great, no problem. So we tried it. And the first day that I taught, about halfway through, I remember, I'll never forget, my entire spine lit up. Like,
I love it.
If I were to imagine what a unicorn horn would feel like when it lit up, if they even do, like, that's what my spine felt like. And it was just pure light, and it radiated out in all directions of my being. And it was like I was standing on an ocean, and the sky opened up above me. And I just knew, like, there was no second guessing that I had to do this, and I could offer it to groups.
Oh, I love that, because that's like really teaching from passion and a sense of presence. And I was talking to one of my friends earlier today about how people have this feeling of like, there's so many yoga teachers, that there's so many this and that, and you after a while you don't know who to go to, or you don't know if you should be a teacher, etc. And I'm like, well, for me, I always found with yoga teachers, like, yes, sometimes I went to a class and felt like, yeah, I did. I connected my breath to movement. It was good. And other times you go to those classes where like the teacher is just so happy to be teaching yoga and to say all the things she wants to say, and like it's just with you. And it's like, that's the difference, whether there's one teacher or 10,000 teachers. It's like you're going to go to the ones that there's that feeling. And that's how you also want to be a teacher, is you want to spread that feeling that you feel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like go ahead.
I want people to feel how I feel now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, that's what first led me to yoga. Like, I'm from a small town and we never had yoga, so I didn't know what it was till I was in college. And one of my friends is like, why don't you go to a yoga class? Why haven't you ever tried yoga? And I'm like, well, where I'm from, I don't even know what that word is. So I'm not sure. And then I went to one class, and it wasn't like my best class ever or anything like that. But I remember leaving the class thinking, I have never looked at the trees like this before. Like, look at each individual leaf, and just like was so present, and was just like floating to my car, and all the things that weren't supposed to be in my life. I'm like, I guess I'll just get rid of them. Like, everything was just the answer's already there. Like, why would I keep pushing for this and that? Like, it was just hilarious how, like, within a short period of time, like, my life started to change, because you're just so much more connected to you and your soul and your spirit. And that's really what we're all trying to come back to.
Exactly.
Your intuitive healing. So what is that like? That's like your second offering, right? On your website, I was noticing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the intuitive healing is a yin experience. And human beings we're narrative creatures, and we learn from story, and we share through story, and remember through story. And so intuitive healing is a gentle narrative journey through your energy centers or your chakras to identify and release what is no longer serving you. So it's a mix of Reiki, channeling. I use my intuition, my clairvoyance, and I do some energetic clearing. So it's a meditative experience for the individual. And these sessions are effective in calming the nervous system, activating the subtle body, and typically are great for leaving you feeling grounded, peaceful, and clear. Artists really respond to this work. So it's gentle, and it can totally be done virtually as well.
I like that because it's so like much together in one session, but it's all just about getting in tune. So you can really just read the person more clearly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So that's what it is. I read the energy body of the person. And so I'll use the chakra system, but I'll also use joints as connection points, because our joints typically hold all kinds of our stories as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And past lives can come up in those sessions, and old traumas can come up, and so through the use of story, and sometimes I don't actually share the story if I feel like it would be too regressive or re-traumatizing. So I'll keep it to myself, and I'll just move and work with the energy that's present.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really about wherever the person is.
I also wanted to ask you, for anyone who doesn't know what a shaman is or what that means, or, in this woo-woo world we live in, I love the woo-woo stuff, but like sometimes words can get overused and misinterpreted. So for you, what does a shaman mean? And is there a process to become a shaman, or is a lot of it intuitively developed? What is like your interpretation of that?
Great question. And super relevant right now. Because I no longer use the term shaman because of cultural appropriation and my relationship with my ancestors and my heritage. So I'm of a Celtic descent, and so druidry, I mean, they were magicians and witches of their own kind. And so I connect more to that at the moment. But to become a shaman is a direct, like you get it from your genetic line. So in the indigenous cultures, their medicine people can sometimes be referred to as shamans because they were raised from the day they were born to be the shaman. All of their education and all of their experiences were specifically directed to that experience. And so in our world now, Westerners can go and we can study with shamans from a variety of cultures. And so we can go and we can study with Peruvian shamans, we can study with First Nations shamans, Canadian First Nations, American First Nations, and we can become shamanic practitioners. So shamanic practitioner is somebody who is quite skilled and authentically educated by a shaman, but is not of Indigenous descent.
That's like the best way I've ever heard it explained. So thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And so I personally, when I take great reverence and caution when using the word shaman, because that is like a otherworldly ordained title. And we can't just give ourselves that title.
That is great, because I find so many people, like I said, like just overuse a word, and then it's misinterpreted about what this word means, or you think you can trust this word, and then someone without the same intentions and actions to back up that intention is now using this word. And yeah, it's just so important to really be clear on what it means and what people can look for and what that feels like, so you don't end up, being in maybe not so good situation, or thinking you're going to get healing or an experience from someone, and it doesn't quite go the same way.
I feel like
no, go ahead.
Anytime someone takes the guru out of you is when we need to ask ourselves more questions, because the teacher, the healer, should always be pointing back to you. The work always needs to come back to your body, your heart, and your truth. And anytime the answers are professed to be outside of the self, that's when I personally look around again and ask myself more questions.
Oh, that is so great. Because, well, me and my partner had a conversation. Like, he is also very in tune, and we do retreats and energy healing and all the good stuff. And
cool.
We were talking about how, like, there's those people that they're trying to make you or the client or patient or whatever think that they're the healer and the one doing it to you, when really they're connecting with you and you're the healer.
Yes.
And we were just having a big conversation about this like 2 days ago. So hearing you say that just is kind of like the universe being like, yes, that is exactly what it is. Like that they aren't the guru, like they're someone that is holding space and knowledge to a certain level, but is connecting with you to read, and you can also feel and interpret, and things aren't going to happen to you on an energetic level that you aren't ready for, because you can always say yes or no to them because you are the healer. And that's another misconception out there in the world is, well, I need to do exactly every single thing that person's doing because they're the healer and they know. And it's like, no, actually it's you. What do you need? How does this feel to you? It's all a very like individual experience in a sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you find like being in, I want to say like your field of work or in your career, just the space that you're in, what are the most common things that you hear or find from people that are coming to you? Maybe it's like your ideal client that you're looking for, or it could be someone, like I said, with trauma. Maybe that's more of a group that comes to you. Or what do you find that's like really common in the field that you're in that you work with?
People with anxiety and depression, and sexual assault survivors, trauma survivors, people who are feeling really stuck. And all of those things that I just listed cause stuckness. When we're grasping onto our anxiety because we don't understand it, and when we're grasping onto depression because we don't understand it and we don't allow it, with depression, we judge the stillness and we judge the halt and the panic and the isolation, and we judge it and we decide that it's bad and it's wrong and that no one else is feeling like this, and why me? And so I offer a solution. I offer a way through that is 100% guided by you. But I do have tools for bridging that gap because I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to put it too. It's like I've been there. So you can trust that I know what I'm talking about and I can help you get there and the other side.
Yeah.
That's what brings also credibility to people who want to heal and help others.
Yeah. And it's also people who've been in the yoga community for a long time, who are eating right, who are meeting all of the criteria for having a happy, healthy life, but can't maintain a relationship or can't seem to really feel alive. And they want to be surprised by life, but everything's getting quite boring. And so that's when we start to address the underlying belief systems that are holding us back. So even though we're doing absolutely everything on the outside, if I hold a fundamental belief about myself that I'm unworthy, I'm not going to end up in a relationship that encourages my mental, spiritual, and emotional growth because of that unworthiness. If I'm constantly broke, I have this belief that, either I'm unworthy of receiving money, or I have to work exponentially hard to prove my value.
Mm-hmm.
And so we end up addressing the underlying beliefs and bringing them into alignment so that our goals do actually become attainable.
That's another good way of putting it, because I feel like there's a lot of talk out there about belief systems and manifesting and just really getting down to the nitty gritty of what's in our core, of what is stuck there that we don't even realize is there.
Yeah.
What do you do in your life, whether it's like every day or just as needed, that keeps you in alignment with what you believe in or what you teach or what you're always working on? What keeps you in alignment, and what are some things that you do to get you back into alignment when you feel like you're not there?
I breathe. I do breath work. I lay down for 25 minutes and I attempt to drop all my experience, and I show up with as much of a beginner's mind as I possibly can, because my ego is running the show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually in those moments, and ego's playing a game and trying to remind me about the old stuff or why something isn't possible. And so I lay down, I grab my stones, I light sage, and I breathe. And I attempt to get over myself. And if that doesn't work, I go to a workout. I go burn some of the energy, but breath work usually really gets me out of my own way and reactivates my creativity, so I can sit down in front of my computer and I can accomplish something, or I can come up with a new course or a workshop or whatever. So breath work's my primary. And then I sit for a tea meditation, which is a silent meditation with tea. And I just experience tea.
Oh, I love tea.
Yeah.
My hands on my heart. I'm like, I love tea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, me and my partner, we call it tea and joint time, because we'll just like we both are medical cannabis patients for different reasons and treating different things. And so we'll, get our favorite strain rolled and we'll just sit outside on the deck next to the lake, or just, it has to be inside in this great room that we built for when it's freezing cold winter here in New Brunswick. We still want to be as close as we can to the outside.
Yeah.
We'll go in there and just make a huge cup of tea each, light it, and just sit there quietly with our tea, look, listen. And then sometimes after the first joint or just waiting a little bit, then we'll really just like start talking, whether it's something that like we've been waiting to talk about, when it was like a good setting for us to talk about, if it's like a heart to heart, or if it's just like, yeah, when we went and did this, what did you think about that? And I was reading this today and I thought about this, like just a different way to like reconnect.
Absolutely.
So it's like kind of coming back to yourself, but then also being like, hi, I would like to talk to you in such a healthy way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We say that to a lot of people. We're like, I think instead of that fight, you should just have tea and talks, we call them.
Totally. Oh my gosh, yeah. Get conscious
Yeah.
again and then
Mhm.
have the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
What does consciousness mean to you?
Oh my. What does consciousness mean to me?
I know it's
Conscious,
such a big word.
yeah. I think so. I think consciousness, I feel consciousness is a relationship. And to the degree of which you are willing to connect to your own or to the universal consciousness
Yes.
is the degree of which you will experience wholeness. And consciousness isn't the absence of the human experience. Consciousness includes the body, it includes especially the emotions, it includes tears and laughter, and it includes everything. There's no differentiation in consciousness. And I feel it to be radically accepting of the present.
Yes. Again, that's something else. And I'm like, you need to write this down. And I feel like you need to write a book that's called How to Get Over Yourself.
Okay, I'm going to write that down.
Like, that's what I really feel. Like, when you were talking, I was like, okay, that should be her book title, How to Get Over Yourself. And in there, there's that definition of consciousness and then your breath work and all the ways that you know on how to teach people and that you use in yourself on how to get over yourself.
I love it. I'm going to do it.
That is what's coming to me. And I think it's going to be a hit.
Okay.
I'm like, I really, because it's kind of like, it's so true, but then it also has that pun and funniness to it that
Yeah.
like makes it really welcoming, like how to get over yourself. It's funny, but it's actually so true. Like that really is the answer to every worry or obsessive or irrational thing that
Oh,
any of us are doing is just
yeah.
if we could get over ourselves. There you go.
Yeah. And empty out.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That
Totally.
could be like your sequel called The Emptying Out.
Empty out. Okay. Okay. Yes.
I'll write like a little forward, like this is
Okay.
the best book ever, people. You need to read it.
Oh, I would love that. I can't wait for this. I'm smiling from ear to ear right now.
I know, me too. I'll just do two more questions. We
Okay.
can slowly start to wrap it up. One thing I wanted to ask you about was I noticed that you offer a course. So
Yeah.
if you could just share a little bit about that and also like how people can contact you or follow you or connect with you or see what you're doing and if you have anything that's coming up, how do people follow along and find out this information?
Cool. I have a 6-week course that you can purchase on my website. It's called Felt Sense. And our felt sense is our inner knowing. And so we use the body to connect and to let the body know that when there's a sensation that we experience, that sensation is enough of a reason for us to take action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest kind of downfall for us, is that we don't let a no mean no in our body, and we still go with what we think other people need from us. And when we start to revere the body as a barometer and as truth, then we take ourselves more seriously more often. And so essentially, Felt Sense is a 6-week program through a guided breathwork healing. So you'll get 6, actually you get 7, because I threw in a full moon virtual healing to the group. So you get 7 breathworks healing classes. You get weekly contemplation exercises, and you get a 15-minute yin meditation as well. So it's breathwork healing accompanied by weekly exercises that create a sacred container for you to do some spiritual work on your own time. That is Felt Sense, and it's great. And then I actually have a 7-day power course coming up in mid-November. And it's designed to be used in 2 ways. 1, as a support between healing sessions with me, or 2, as a catapult during times of transition. Because we're so accustomed to being comfortable, when we actually start to initiate change and progress into our lives, we actually do begin to get uncomfortable because the earth below us starts to shake and starts to move. And what happens when we get even the slightest bit uncomfortable is that we reach back for something that we used to know. We reach back to something that we understand. And we accidentally set ourselves back. And so this 7-day power course will support you in staying true to your vision and grounded in your truth. It's also kind of handy that I'm launching it mid-November because a lot of people say if you want to test your yoga practice or you want to test your spiritual nature, head into town and stay with your parents for a week, right? That's one way to get the nervous system really activated. So you could use the power course as a way to get grounded when your nervous system is flaring because people around you are saying things that no longer resonate. So you can go down to the basement or back into your room and connect to the breath through that course.
Those are all so many great options of just being able to, and I like that it's not like watch this and then that's it. It's like you can integrate each step and it takes time, and it's not just like a quick fix thing like people are always looking for. It's like really embodying the principles.
Exactly. So that you can move forward being the change that you want to see in the world.
Yes. Yeah, any final contact information or anything that you would like to share? Any words of wisdom, info, anything at all?
So one-on-one sessions can also be done virtually, and you can book one of those through my website, which is spiritedroots.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Spirited Roots Healing, or on Instagram at Spirited Roots. So any of the work that I do one-on-one in person is absolutely as effective virtually. That's the other thing I love about my work, is that energy travels, energy exists, and we can connect to it wherever we are, however we are. And so I suppose my final tip would be come as you are. My last name is Sullivan, so my initials are AS, and I like to say come as is. As is. You don't have to be evolved spiritually to show up for this work. You don't have to ever have meditated a single time in your life to show up for this work. You don't have to have a clue what you want out of this work to come. You don't have to have, you can have eaten whatever you want all day and show up. I don't care. When we begin the spiritual path, there is absolutely no judgment. There's no judgment. Universal consciousness does not care who you are, what your practices are, how you feel about yourself, or what others say. Universal consciousness wants you. And so oftentimes I hear people say, oh, I'm just not ready to come and see you yet. I'm like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I don't get it. What do you mean? Well, I'm still drinking Coke. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Coke doesn't affect your ability to connect to spirit, or whatever.
Yes.
That's kind of an arbitrary comment, but.
Yeah, no, it's like their own individual belief of like, I need to be perfect. And then I can try. Or then I can think about it. It's like, well, you already are conscious and you already are being. Like, you just are being yourself, and that's enough. And then, like, yes, if you want to change something, well, you can, we can work on that together. But it's really just, like just showing up as you are.
Exactly.
That's probably a good wisdom for everyone. Just show up as you are.
Just come. Just try it. If you don't like it, that's cool. But if you do, it might just change your entire life.
I totally agree with all that. So thank you so much for talking with me today. And I'm looking forward to connecting further as well.
This was a really fun experience, and I can't wait for collaborating potentially. That would be wonderful.
For sure. I hope you have a great time with your parents in Calgary.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you again soon, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.